Now, there is an element in human nature that militates against believing that anything in the short run will reverse this complacency with what is already a virtual executive despotism in theory and understanding. And that is most of the, I've been told that I have 5 syllables left, and I'm going to try to ask for a little more yielding of time as a concession to the shortness of life. And that is, the ultimate collapse is probably not threatened in a few days. And the irresponsibility of the current generation will be visited mostly on those yet to be born. And those yet to be born don't have money to give. They don't speak up because they're not born to prick your conscience. So it takes a very mature people in order to say, hey, I've got to draw the line now. I may have to sacrifice some creature comforts in order to protect and defend our liberties so my children and others will inherit what I did. Because that's what's inspired me. I said to Bruce, why do you have this freedom, even the ability to speak out? Because I've read the Founding Fathers, and they worried about democracy, not creature comforts. They worried over and over again, we must make this succeed, because if we fail, all Europe will say democracies can't work. You've got to have despotisms and kings forever. Well, this must succeed. And that's why they pledged their lives and fortunes and sacred honor at the end of the Declaration of Independence, knowing if they lost, they were traitors. They were traitors. And that's why we sit here today. We are at a precipice, but we've not been pushed over yet. And we need to be inspired by our forefathers in order to make the sacrifices they did. So those who inherit the United States of America will still say, this was civilization's finest hour. Thanks.
You want to take a few? It's up to you.
Yeah, if they want to. Yeah. But it's really if they want to eat, I don't know.
Let's take 2 or 3 questions.
Okay. You want me to call?
2 or 3 questions. Keep them short, please.
2 or 3.
I'll let you go because I just want to point out real quick, there was one presidential candidate who did criticize Hillary Clinton publicly for making that statement, and I bet you can all guess who he was. I'll give you a hint. It's a Republican from Texas.
Actually, there were 2. My question is, you brought out the about where is the righteous indignation, and I've really been wondering, where is that righteous indignation? I don't understand why there aren't protests like we saw in previous years and previous decades. And what do you think is the #1 reason for that? Is it the education system? And second, a very quick follow-up, what do you think it would take to make that indignation and that protest and saying we're not going to take it anymore? What will it take for that to occur? Thank you.
There are very few serious problems that have single causes. So I don't believe that there's one answer. But one element in this is that at present, most of the victims that we know about have names that seem foreign. Mohammeds, Hamdans, they don't seem to be Jones and Smith that people would readily associate, hey, it can happen to you. And this is what you might call a subterranean bigotry, but in my judgment, it's there. It's the same attitude that was at work in World War II when we put into concentration camps 120,000 loyal Japanese Americans. There were no protests. And to show you how egregious it was, we had dispatched a general, John DeWitt, to the West Coast to discover evidence of Japanese American treason, espionage, sabotage. He comes back and writes a report and says, nothing there. But I'm a psychologist. I know they have racial strains that tie them to the Emperor Hirohito. And the fact that they've not been disclosing their treasonous activities to me proves that treason is afoot. Now, it sounds like Alice in Wonderland, and it is, but that was what was utilized. And no one protested. And the names were what? Korematsu, Hirabayashi, whatever. So one reason is at present, the names seem unfamiliar. The second is the one that you touched upon. The youth today and the adult population, they're totally ignorant of what this country is about. They don't know constitutional philosophy. They don't know what sacrifices were made. Why people died at Cemetery Hill. Why people died at Omaha Beach. Why people sacrificed at Valley Forge. They prefer creature comforts and American Idol to struggle for freedom. And this is something that has gone back to centuries, eons of civilizations that acquire this kind of power. This is what Edmund Gibbon wrote about Athens after he had written The Decline and Fall of Rome. He said, one they came to cherish more than anything else, comfort and convenience. They came to cherish that more than liberty and freedom. They lost all of it. And that is where we are. People would care more about their favorite idol, American Idol grabs these huge audiences, but they wouldn't spend 5 seconds reading anything about the history of abuses of power that show the danger we're at. And creature comforts and worried more. I don't want to deny that you don't like to pay $4 for gasoline, but my gosh, the founding fathers didn't sacrifice their lives so we could buy gasoline at $3 a gallon. For freedom. Now, what does that mean? How do you change this? You have to change it in the classroom, in the breakfast table, in the dinner table. It's not like anything that's light goes out, but everything, ladies and gentlemen, is matters of degree in life. It's matters of degree in knowing when you've got to sacrifice. Some generations get saddled with greater burdens and responsibilities than others. We have been saddled with the responsibility of avoiding kingship and executive despotism. Whether it's unfair, it's our responsibility. And it comes from groups like this, talking and speaking. You have to stand up and say, no, we don't have kings in this country. We don't have any vassals in this country. And again, it can happen. Because the American Revolution didn't spring like Athena from Zeus's brain, immaculate. It took time and educating the American people over decades as to what were the dangers of King George III's oppression. It doesn't happen overnight, but it was sustained and continued, the committees of correspondence, the writings. So I'm not suggesting this can be done in a day, but it's the small efforts to make certain that people and children and students have their priorities right. Freedom ultimately comes first all the time. Then we worry about other things.